Midlife women are holding up the world right now. And some of us might even say that our arms are getting just a little bit tired. We are running companies and households. We're running marathons and running for office. We are half the population and we influence the majority of consumer and family health decisions. Yet media still try to tell us we are over the hill. Marketers infer that we need fixing, and too many women still leave their medical appointments feeling dismissed and disappointed. Through conversations with thought leaders, health and wellness experts, and women like you, we are cracking open the conversation on the new truths of midlife. We are replacing hot with whole and bitchy with beautiful. We are pointing you towards quality information so you can get informed and choose the journey that's right for you. Thanks for joining us. Get ready because we are shining a new light on women who are navigating their 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, all with the intention of bringing you one step closer to living your best midlife. I'm Shirley Weir, founder of Menopause Chicks, and this is Live Your Best Midlife. Now, this show would not be possible without the support of our partners. And today I want to extend gratitude to Ferropro Iron, ferropro.com. Ferropro was formulated by Bob Mayer, who is the CEO of Pure Pharmacy. And the reason I like it is because I eat mostly a vegetarian diet and it absorbs optimally. So it's formulated to have the best absorption and it doesn't cause stomach upset. But for other women who still have a period or have heavy bleeding, please get your ferritin level checked and then look into what iron supplementation can do for you. My guest today is a world-renowned researcher of perimenopause. And I am so delighted to welcome Dr. Jerilynn Prior to Live Your Best Midlife. Dr. Prior, she's the go-to for health professionals and women alike when it comes to research on the menstrual cycle, perimenopause, menopause, and the role of estrogen and progesterone. She answers thousands of questions at her website, which is the Center for Menstrual Cycle and Ovulation Research, or cemcor.org for short. And she's also the author of Estrogen Storm Season and the Estrogen Errors. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jerilynn Prior.
Thank you, Shirley.
Hi, so nice to see you again. I want to also tell our listeners that when I started Menopause Chicks, well, you know, I didn't know what I didn't know. And your name came up very quickly, obviously, in my research because of the work that you do. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for how kind you were to saying yes, inviting me into your office and really kick-starting the learning that I needed to do to help women navigate this phase of life. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for doing what you do because it's very important.
Now, we would like to walk through today and share with you some of the old or outdated information that exists around progesterone in particular and the role of estrogen and progesterone. So we've got three kind of bullet points that we're going to walk through today. I'm going to state what the old or outdated thinking is, and I'm going to invite Dr. Prior to set the record straight. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
So, you know, our culture has been estrogen centric. The focus, when we learn, if we learn anything about our female hormones, it seems that the focus is largely about estrogen. Now, what is the new thinking?
The new thinking is that progesterone is every bit as important as estrogen. And in particular, in midlife, understanding that these two hormones are important is crucial because, contrary to what, and we'll talk about this in a minute, what most people think, estrogen goes out of control, especially for the women who are having a difficult time.
Right.
So you need to know about the hormone that counterbalances it, that offsets its effects in the tissues.
Yeah, and maybe we should even back up, Dr. Pryor, to like clarify that what we're talking about is estrogen and progesterone that's produced naturally by our bodies. And often that gets interchanged into hormone therapy. So let's talk about what happens naturally with estrogen and progesterone.
Okay, the normal menstrual cycle is an incredible balance of these two hormones, and they feed off each other, and they're both necessary. So, for example, you can't make progesterone in the high doses we make in the time of the cycle after an egg is released, unless there's been first a large surge of estrogen in the middle of the cycle. So, and estrogen is necessary to increase the receptors, or the way in which progesterone talks to other cells. But progesterone is necessary because estrogen is such a strong growth stimulator. It's making cells divide willy-nilly all the time. And somebody needs to say, calm down here. That's enough. That's enough. Now it's time to grow up. Those cells need to mature into their specific role in the body, and that's what progesterone does.
I like that you use the word calming because that really is like one of the defining features of progesterone. Even, you know, for women who might be listening to this and feeling like they're wired yet tired, or maybe they're not sleeping as well as they once did, and you say the word calming hormone, it really resonates, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the other, I firmly believe, outdated beliefs that our society still holds is that whenever we have conversations about menopause, that we're talking about hormone decline.
Or
Can you,
deficiency.
or
The horrible
deficiency?
thing of estrogen deficiency.
Yes. Can you clarify what our renewed thinking should be around this?
Mm. Yeah. The interesting thing is that women's bodies are made in a different way than men's. Now, that's not surprising, thankfully. Thankfully, we are. But we have our 30 to 50 years of reproductive life, and then we get a break from the demands, as I see it, of these high estrogen and progesterone hormones. That break is essential. And if we've built a strong, healthy foundation of balanced estrogen and progesterone during the menstruating years, then we can be healthy for most of the rest of our lives.
But what happens instead?
What happens instead if we are stressed and we don't ovulate and we don't make enough progesterone? I'm not talking about now and then. I'm talking about consistently don't make
Right.
enough. Then we're at increased risk for osteoporosis, increased risk for heart attack. And the difficult thing is that typically women get heart attacks about 10 years later than men. But we lose that protection if we haven't had enough progesterone. And then the final thing is that, remember I said that the estrogen makes these cells grow, grow, grow? Well, there's chances for mistakes. And mistakes mean cancer when you're talking about cells. So we're at increased risk for breast cancer and endometrial cancer.
That, for me, is the missing communication piece for women. So many of the conversations around estrogen and progesterone seem to only pertain to perimenopause and menopause, or the menstrual cycle, right? And it's almost as if society, culture, even the medical community wants to put parentheses around it and just say, oh, okay, and then when you're done, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. That is not the case. And if I can just get you to repeat what you just said, I mean, osteoporosis, that's really something that women in perimenopause are not thinking about. Is that correct?
That's right. And, we blame menopause for
Right.
women's osteoporosis, but we showed some years ago that if you take a whole bunch of studies, and women in those studies tracked both ovulation and their bone density over time, the women who had the better ovulatory characteristics as well as regular cycles during that year were fine. The women who had disturbances more than half of the time were losing bone almost 1% a year.
Wow.
And, if you're talking 30 to 50 years of menstruating life, you could lose a lot of bone before you ever hit menopause.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the message that you want those women to hear then?
The important thing is having a regular cycle isn't sufficient. You need to know that you're ovulating as well. Now, that isn't easy. If you're working on fertility, then you've got the LH kit test down pat. Or if you're using assisted fertility methods or something, so you're doing your basal temperature, that's better. But most of us don't pay any attention. If we have regular cycles, everyone says you're fine, dear. Go home kind of thing. And that's why one of the most difficult things in perimenopause is women who are achieving a lot in their lives, whose cycles are regular, say, now it's time for me to take a leave of absence from this or that I'm doing and have my children. And they fully expect that they'll have it organized in the same way they organize the rest of their lives. But if they're not ovulating normally, then they get into this horrible thing of infertility. And one of the reasons it rears its head in perimenopause is that it's natural for progesterone levels to drop, even when you're having regular cycles.
Right.
That's just part of the natural history. So you may not be making enough progesterone, even if you're releasing an egg, to maintain to allow the egg to implant and to maintain that pregnancy. So I said it's hard right now to know if you're ovulating normally or not, but years ago we worked out a simple way using the old-fashioned thermometer, but analyzing the data in a quantitative way that's reliable, that's validated. And it's on the SEMCOR website in the middle of the main page toward the bottom. And you can take a look there and use it for free. It does take paying attention.
Yeah.
Which you need to start doing before you hit perimenopause.
Yep.
Because then you'll be much better informed when you get there.
And so for women who aren't trying to conceive, and maybe just having the first conversation about perimenopause, I do want to remind them of the differences between perimenopause and menopause, right? Do you want to explain?
Oh, I'll let you do it.
Well, I mean, this is what you taught me, because it was, based on our second point, the culture always told us, oh, it's about deficiency or decline. But in reality, in perimenopause, our hormones are fluctuating all the time, sometimes wildly. And it isn't until after menopause that estrogen then declines naturally.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. And in fact, those of us who have a tough time in perimenopause have statistically higher levels of estrogen. Mm-hmm. It's higher than in the most sexy, fertile young thing, which is hard to believe. And especially since our culture tells us we're missing it.
Right.
Just when it's too high.
Right.
So the idea that high estrogen in the birth control pill is going to fix perimenopause is just wrong.
That's right.
And what we in fact need is more progesterone to counterbalance those effects of estrogen that are uncomfortable or difficult.
That's right. And then the benefits are that your brain feels better and your sleep gets better, and you can figure it out and get back to living a quality of life, right?
Yes, and I think that it also helps with hot flushes and night sweats.
Yeah, right.
I frustrating world we live in, and I haven't been able to get the randomized controlled trial data that showed that published yet. It's been 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the general medical journals reject it at the editorial level. They don't even send it out for peer review.
And the truth is that the majority of women experience hot flashes in that final year of perimenopause. So it would be really important if we could spread the word on that. Well, we're using this platform to do that today.
That's right.
I want to ask you, you and I have had conversations about this over the years. How does someone advocate for their own health? How do they have these types of conversations like you and I are having about the benefits and understanding the roles of estrogen and progesterone? How do we take that to our physician or our health team and have an empowered or informed conversation?
It's difficult because your doctors are probably less informed than you are. If you've been paying attention to, the blogosphere, the women's media to menopause chicks, you probably know more about this phase of life than your doctors.
Yeah.
But understand that they haven't been taught to view it in a physiological, in an appropriate way. And that is still true today, unfortunately. I mean, we know a lot from population-based studies, from prospective studies, all kinds of information from every continent in the world, and yet it isn't being taught to family doctors today. So give them the benefit of the doubt. Say, you want me to feel better, right? What if we were to do this little experiment? I've kept my diary. Here it is. See, I'm having trouble with this and this and this. I think that progesterone would help. How about giving me 2 weeks of progesterone? And I'll keep this record again, and we can look at it together and see if it helps or not.
Those are excellent script tips. I think that's what women need. I think that we're kind of looking for that confidence that we can recite what you just said with our doctor, form a partnership, and form an experiment, if you will. Call it whatever you like, as long as you're going to feel better in the end.
Yeah, and if the doctor is very skeptical, there's all kinds of references and things on the SEMCOR website that will back this up. I'm the people of British Columbia pay me to learn things that are going to help women. So I've got no skin in the game. Right. I'm not selling anything. I'm not, so I'm not biased. I'm just trying to understand. And to be honest, I had a horrible perimenopause myself, and there was nothing that helped me then. So, so I've learned a lot.
But you are one of these.
From my patients' experiences, from working with women, from listening. And that's all you're asking your doctor to do, is just listen and learn.
And you are one of the world's most renowned researchers on perimenopause and the role of progesterone too. So we thank you for that. I want to ask you a question that I ask every guest, Jerilynn, and that is, what is the one thing you want women in midlife to know?
Remember that progesterone is every bit as important as estrogen.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you would like to find out more, please visit Dr. Prior's website, semcor.org. Get a copy of her book, Estrogen Storm Season. It's actually written in the form of stories, so it's very easy. She's translated all of her knowledge and research into easy to understand stories. I want to thank you for joining us and thank our partners. Please check out the links below. If you have any questions or comments, we look forward to continuing the conversation with you. If anything today resonated for you, I do invite you to share this broadcast, and I look forward to seeing you on Live Your Best Midlife next time. Bye, Dr. Prior. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.